the 12th of May last year, I was in a 4-hour couple session therapy with my wife. And after those 4 hours, she come to the point that she said she can't be in a relationship with me anymore. And it was quite devastating and unexpected for me. I was really wondering what's going on. I mean, I knew we had a few troubles. We were building a house. We have a child, 3 years old. So anybody who has a child knows that's a lot of stress. We both changed our jobs. He wrote a master thesis. We had major health issues in our closer family. So there was a lot of things going on, but I never expected that our 11 years of marriage is ending. And you might ask why I'm telling you this at an Agile conference here in Vilnius. Actually, there are two things. The first thing is that exactly at that date, I think, or 1 week before, I was thinking, hey, we are doing a really good job in breaking up. And that sounds funny maybe, but the point is really that it was good. And even I had a feeling, even my wife had a feeling, and I got the feedback from family and also from friends. And when I told or shared my story with friends, they said, wow, it's unbelievable what you're doing. And they wanted to know how the story is continuing. So I was thinking, okay, I need to write a blog or something, or write a book, as great people are doing. And after a few months, I've realized, okay, I want to go to a conference and held a talk. And at that point, I write some proposals for some conferences, and I got accepted. And now I'm here and I'm presenting you this topic. The second thing is that at that point, when I really started to work on a topic and thinking, okay, how I can put this stuff together, my experiences I've got in the last 1.5 years about breakup and the agile working I'm doing in my work, is that there are a lot of similarities. And that was unexpected, and I delved more into that topic, and I realized that a lot of things I've learned in the breakup I can use in the work context as well. And that is what I want to present you today. For example, I took over a project 4 weeks ago. It was the worst project in our company, I would say. The former product owner wanted to leave the company because it was unbearable. And as we have a quite good psychology safe net, we put the product owner out of the project and I went in. And within 2 weeks, it's one of the best projects we have. So I don't know if I'm doing the things right. I don't know, really. But I have the feeling, at least, that those things are working. So who am I? My name is Gustav. I'm working at a company called Cloudflight. We are doing software development. And what I'm doing is hard to explain, actually. If you would ask my child what I'm doing, he would say, I tell people that there are no bosses. I like that, but it's not the whole story. I usually tell people that I'm doing what I want and what others need. That's a little bit better, but it's also something not understandable for people who are not working agile. So what I'm telling now is, question who knows the movie or the book Never Ending Story? 2, wow. Okay, in this book there is this dragon, it's a luck dragon, and the only purpose of this creature is that it brings happiness, luck, inspiration into the story, and nothing more. And that's what I'm doing. I walk through the office and I inspire people, I solve the problems, and I'm actually not necessary. I question every day what I'm doing here, why they are paying me, but somehow it gets better. So Agile Luck Dragon is now my official position title. After the first session, for me it was really the hardest moment of my whole life. it was like my life was completely in pieces. And what I'm doing as a business analyst or requirements engineer is that I start to think, okay, what went wrong? I don't understand what happened there. I need to figure out why our relationship was crashing, because I need to understand so it won't happen again in the future. I believed didn't work, but still I tried it out, and I'm quite proud that I can say now I'm in a position where I have at least an explanation for 100% what happened. It doesn't mean it's true, but at least I have an explanation. So it makes a little bit more confident now for me that I can say where I am now is a good position. And then I've created a happiness chart of our relationship. And what you see here is that we had a rocket start. So within a few days, we were at 100% level in our relationship. And the first 3 years, we had really a great relationship. You know, it's like in most relationships. Then we started to focus again on other topics, like study or whatever. But when we noticed that we are focusing on different things and that our relationship is getting a little worse, we said, okay, we need to focus again on each other. We did it, and it was again on 100%. This happened once a year, basically. I knew already, okay, so in May, June, it's the time where we need to focus again on our relationship, and that works. The point is that there were 3 years where I said there was a lot of things going on. I can't even say what our happiness level was because we didn't measure. But the point is, as soon as we finished our house, we were at the point I didn't like, and my wife didn't like either. So we started what we did the past times to work on our relationship. And it didn't work. And what happened is that she fell in love with another man, and within 4 weeks, we came to that point. And that point was the first therapy session, and the next 3 months was like that. And actually, it's not true, because it was in an hourly rate that we had a feeling, okay, why we are not together? We are the best people for each other. And 2 hours later, we couldn't be in the same room. And that was wow. Emotionally, it was really exhausting. We started to introduce some agile concepts, like we started with sprints quite early in the planning, as we need to handle our child and other things. Later on, we introduced retrospectives, for example, which is a really great thing for everybody who is in a relationship. Do retrospectives. It improves your relationship a lot, and such other things. And 2 weeks later, we had the next session. We called it now family therapy, as we are not a couple anymore. And we said, okay, after 4 hours of discussing again, and where I said, okay, either we are together or I will leave you completely and the child. And I'm 6 months somewhere in Asia. And she didn't like that. And we come to a point where we agreed on, okay, we want to try to find together as whatever. And this whatever was, we want to be together again as a couple, or at least we wanted to be together as parents, because none of us really wanted that our child is raising up with just one parent. And actually, both of us wanted that we are in a relationship, because that's the ideal world, you know, that there's a mother and a father and the children, and that's it, and that's good. But that didn't work out well, at least for me. I come to the point that I felt really bad. I started to have suicidal thoughts. And I remember one evening where I was sitting in front of my laptop and Googled. And I was Googling how to commit suicide. And then I was searching there, and there are some pills. You get, okay, there's 2 weeks of delivery time. You need to pay 500 euros. And then you get the detailed description, how you can do it, how you can improve your success rate without pain. And in that moment, I asked myself, why are you searching for that right now? I know I'm a curious person and I want to know a lot of stuff, and I'm interested in suicide since 15 years. So not because I want to commit suicide, but just because I'm interested in the topic. And I asked myself why I'm doing this right now. And I had no answer. And in that moment, I knew, okay, I catched myself right now that some parts of me took over control of me somehow and started to work on something I don't want. And I knew, okay, I need to do something differently. And what I did is, a few weeks later, I went on a coaching camp. At the same time, my wife and her new boyfriend with the children went on holiday to Turkey, and I went on a coaching camp. So I was a whole week in Italy and was getting introduced in a technique. It's called systemic structural constellations. It's based on the systemic thinking workshop or talk today. Basically, it's really hard to explain, but it's like if you were sitting in the map talk today, it's like a 3D map with real people, and the people have emotions, and then you can move the people and you will have different emotions. And in the beginning, you have a picture what is more or less how it is in the moment. So it was not that good. The lady on the right side is the representation of my wife. So she was, okay. She was really angry. She was devastated. And she told me afterwards that after 2 minutes, she wanted to go out of the session because she felt that she will collapse. So there was real strong emotions in her, bad emotions. And also in my position, I'm the blue guy here, or the representation of me is the blue guy. And there was also some sentences about suicidal and so on. And after 2 hours of work, we changed a lot, and our coach did a really good thing. And after 2 hours of the session, I was in a position with my wife where we were in connection again, where I had the feeling of touch, that I looked into her eyes and she looked into my eyes, and I knew, okay, there is still hope that we can come together. And crazy as I am, what I did is I booked a flight to Mallorca for 3 days without my child. So just we two. And my wife agreed, as she said, yeah, what we can lose. And so we spent 3 days at Mallorca. And on the third day, I created the perfect day. You know, like in the movies. So I rented a cabriolet. We were riding horses on the beach. We relaxed on the nice isle. On the evening, we had a great dinner in one of the best restaurants I ever was. We had great discussions, we had great food, we had great emotions. There was a great guy, a great woman. And after that, we went up to a hill with the stars shining and the moon. There was a nice castle, an old castle. And I was pulling out my wedding rings from my pockets and held a short speech and asked her if she wants to be together with me again. And what she said in that moment was that she was crying. And she said, I want, but I can't. And I knew that it doesn't make sense anymore to work on the relationship with her, that I can't force it, that we are together. I did my best, at least I thought so. And what I did is that I focused on myself. And what happened is the next month that everybody did his own thing, it actually went worse. And in this year, in the beginning, we had, again, a really bad point where we decided, okay, the way how we are doing it doesn't work. We need to change it. And I decided, okay, then work on it to quit. So I really started to disconnect emotionally from her and consciously worked every day how to live without her. So we are both together worked on disconnecting of each other. We couldn't completely because we have a child, so we still had our goal, but that was it was. And now you may ask, okay, nice story, or not that nice story. Actually, what I have to say is that we are now in a really good position. So she lives in Hamburg, I'm living in Vienna, so those are 1,000 kilometers away. She has a child, but we have now a really good relationship. We can talk like best friends. We have a very open communication. It's very simple. And it's really fascinating that we have such a good family feeling actually. With the distance, a lot of people don't understand, but it's like I'm there in Hamburg and I have my child for 5 days, and then she says, but it's a little bit complicated because next week that and that is, and okay, then I will take my child to Vienna and I'm there with a week in Vienna. So it's really uncomplicated. And when I think what I've learned in the last 1.5 years, there's a lot of stuff. Actually, I think in the last 1.5 years, I learned much more in all of my life, and I did a lot of things. I've studied multiple studies and have a coaching education and so on. And when I think about working agile, I put out now the most impactful techniques, values, whatever I will present now. So the first thing is what I've heard today already multiple times is a goal, a vision, it's a what for. What's important in my opinion, if we're talking about goals, is it's not about that you're reaching the goal. It's about that you have a direction. And when we come to our private life, it's like what we had is the shared goal. So that we said, okay, we want to be together as at least parents to, in best case, we are a couple again. Now we are somewhere in between with good friends, with a hope of best friends again. And the thing is that as soon as we had this shared goal, it was really easy to know where to go. When I had multiple options to follow, I knew every time what options I have to take because I knew what the goal is. And in the project context, it's actually quite easy. It's a project vision and it's a sprint goal. There is an S missing. It's not a print goal, it's a sprint goal. And of course, everybody knows that goals are important, and we heard it a lot of times today. But the point is, what I felt there in the last year is that when you have a real goal, so you're 100% committed to the goal, there is no alternative. And you don't say, okay, yeah, maybe I won't reach the goal and then my child don't have a parent. That's okay. You don't say that. Because that's not possible, actually. And what we had was a goal that must be reached somehow. It doesn't mean when, it doesn't mean how. Even it's not a SMART goal because I mean in the acronym, it's not a SMART goal, but we had a goal which gave us a direction and helped us a lot to find the right direction. And actually, I believe that goals are not the most important thing. That's a lie. They're really helpful, but the much more important thing is that you know who I am. What I've learned is that the goal was much more powerful at that moment where I began to understand who am I. And that means that you're aware of yourself, of your body, of your feelings, of your emotions, of your thoughts, of your speakings, of your actions. But it also means that you accept yourself. I was in a situation a few months ago where I realized, okay, I've realized right now that I want to get out of the relationship since at least 5 years. And I was, whoa, why I didn't know that, why I didn't had those thoughts previously, consciously. And I realized, okay, I suppressed these feelings because I didn't want to get out of the relationship for my whole identity, whoever am I. But the point is that some things went wrong. And some parts in me told me, okay, you should get rid of the relationship because they will hurt you. But I didn't listen, as the relationship was much more important than listening to those feelings. Actually, I think would have listened to those feelings, I could improve our relationship because I noticed, okay, what was going wrong? And then I could make things differently. For the private life, what I do a lot is meditation now. So that really helps to get aware of who you are, but also walking in nature. So, I mean, there are a lot of things you can do. It's also described in the internet, most likely listening to music and so on. And for the working context, it's actually the retrospective. I mean, I guess most of you are working agile somehow. I know a lot of teams who say, no, we don't need retrospectives because they don't help or whatever, so they skip it at all. And most of the other teams I know do retrospectives, but they're working or focusing most likely on the progress. So what they do is usually they say, what went wrong the last sprint, what went well the last sprint, and what we want to do differently the next sprint. And that's okay. That's a really important part of the retrospective, that to work on the continuous development and the continuous improvement. But there's a second part of the retrospective, which is also very important, and it's the getting aware of who am I. And that's true for the team as well. Because if you know what the team members are wanting, what their goals are, what their pains are, the emotions are, whatever, if you know your team really well, it's much easier to work in a way that everything has the feeling it works good. When we put that to an example, it's like that I'm here, I know where I am, and then I have two options. I have A and I have option B. And when I have a strong vision and I know where I am, then it's quite simple. It's actually, I don't need to decide anymore. It's a necessity to go one of those two options. There's no questioning, no hustle, no whatever. It's just, okay, here I am, that's the vision, I need to go there. Yes, I have other options as well, but it doesn't make sense. The point is that in most of the times, we don't only have two or some options. What comes again is there's a I called it where I deceive myself. That's what I've talked a little bit earlier, is that my subconsciousness wants me to not focus on some things in life because they are painful maybe, or I wanted to forget them, or I'm scared or whatever. So don't think about them. But it's actually much easier if you have four options and you say, okay, I have C, I have D, I have A, and I have B. And what I did in my private life again is, when I had a bad feeling, I go there and asked. For example, what I did is, I had the feeling that I'm worthless as a partner. I'm not a good guy anymore because she had a new boyfriend. So the new boyfriend needs to be obviously better, or has some more skills, or I don't know, is a better person. And I went with that feeling to her and told her, hey, I have the feeling that I'm not that good as he is, or I'm worthless, or that everything we had in the past 12 years was not good, or everything is just an illusion or something. And the thing is that every time when I come with such a feeling to my wife, the answer was not expected. She was very honest to me. She gave me a good feeling. And in the end, my bad feeling was gone completely. And that was, at some point, I was really wondering what's going on. I mean, I have a bad feeling, and I just talk with her about, hey, I'm a loser or something like that. And she says, yeah, but blah, 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 blah. And the feeling was gone. And it was, I mean, yeah, no language is constructing reality and such things. I've studied philosophy, I know, but what? And actually, the same is true in the working context. One permission to play in our company is that you question things. When a customer is coming to us and say, I want to have that feature, our developers develop the feature, or they have a bad feeling and they go to the customer and say, hey, I have the feeling either I didn't understand it correctly or I did something, it doesn't work out. I don't know, I have a bad feeling about this feature. Let's discuss it shortly about. And I would say in 80% of the times, the customer says, oh, wow, you're right. That's not a good idea how to do that. And I know a lot of companies, or especially consultancies, who say, okay, I want to do the best for the company. So if the customer is asking me something, I will do it because I make the customer happy. But what I've realized is, or what we're realizing, is that when we are honest to the customer and we are bringing our expertise into the field, then the customer is way more happier because the customer is not God. He doesn't know everything. So we are on a point now where I know where I am, I know where my vision is, where my goal is, and I have every option I have in my mind. And I still have more options, but I'm not aware of, so I can ask others. Because I'm not the only person on this world. There are a lot of other people here. And I can't go or think every way what you can do on this planet. So you get new options by talking to others. And what I did a lot is reading books. That sounds simple, right? Read a book. Everybody's saying is read a book. But I was in the situation, for me it's interesting because I felt completely crushed. And then I read a book, for example, from Esther Perel about state of affairs. And it was not related directly to my relationship, but I just read the book and I thought, oh, relationship can different, completely different. And in other cultures, they have a relationship in a completely different way. And I was so, okay, wow. And it changed my world of view completely. And I had it with a few books. Yeah, with some books. I can give you a recommendation list actually if you want to later on. And for the professional work, I still have the feeling that conferences are a good tool to get an idea of new things. And the point is, I know a lot of people who are going to conferences and listening to the stuff and thinks, yeah, it's a nice story what you're telling, or you're cool tools. But the cool thing on conferences, in my opinion, is that you go there with your problems, with your project, with your work experiences, get some idea, get some inspirations, how you can change your life. So it's just an inspirational space for changing your own situation. And I think conference is a really good, cool place for that. And actually, that works. I mean, now I have all options I could have, because at least we have as a humanity on this planet. So what I do is now I make my first step from all these options. Then I'm on a new place. I go the next step on the new place. Then I still have my vision in mind and I do the next step because there's an obstacle and I don't want to go through that obstacle. So I do the next step and I do the next step and the next step and the next step. And what happens is that I'm running in circles. I still do the best of all the options all the time because I have my vision in mind. But somehow, even if I'm following the best option, I'm running in circles. And what helps for that is that if you're in the system, is that you get feedback from the outside. Because the outside sees, okay, hey, you're running in circles. You don't notice that you're running in circles. It's not that it's in 1 minute that you can see yourself running in circles. It's obvious, it's sometimes in every sprint you're doing the same bad behavior. You think you're doing the best, but actually you're always doing the same. And when you get feedback from the outside, that helps you much. And what I did is I started with a therapy. And the funny thing is that I'm a coach, so I even thought about quitting the IT area completely and just going into the coach area. And I know that therapy helps. But I didn't start a therapy. I don't know why. Usually that's a problem of coaches, that they don't take coaches because they knew better. They are a coach already, so they don't need a coach, right? But what happened is that I advised my wife to take a coach or to take a therapy. And a strategy I developed the last years, and that is really a great one, I can recommend it to you as well, is that every time when you recommend something to someone else, think about, do it by yourself. Because most likely, if you want to have someone else doing something, you should do it. And what I did is, okay, nice idea. Maybe I should start a therapy. And that was actually one of the most impactful actions I took in the last year. And I guess you can believe already what it is in the work context. It's an Agile coach, or Scrum Master. Because he has a perspective from the outside of the system and see how the system behaves, as we heard in the systemic thinking talk today, is that a good Scrum Master, at least in my opinion, has this view on the system from the outside and can see what's going on there and change it. And the last point is autonomy. It is really good if you have your options and you go your step by step and you don't run in circles because you get good feedback from the outside, maybe also from other teams. But still, it doesn't really work well because you get here and you get pulled here from the management. And it's really cool if you can do whatever you want, just by your own. There are no dependencies to other departments or teams or people or beliefs or whatever. You just do what you want. In the private context, it was my wife. Because there was a huge dependency between my wife and me. We had a very close relationship. And as we moved from a married state to a, let's say, friend state, we needed to change something, of course. I mean, we cannot kiss each other anymore, like in the way we did before. And there was a lot of other things we didn't continue. But the point is, we couldn't cut every wire instantly. That wouldn't make sense because we cannot start from zero and we cannot quit because we have a child. So what we did is that we talked to each other and worked actually a lot. We tried things out. We said, okay, this behavior is not good. Let's try it that way. And 2 weeks later, we realized, okay, no, that behavior is also not good. The other is actually better. Let's do it this way. And like it was really sprint per sprint, and in the retrospectives we analyzed that, is that we changed our behavior to a point where it works for us. And we disconnected some of our wires and we created new wires actually. And in the end, we are now in a position where both of us are very independent and still can work together as a team. And that's a cool thing. And actually that's something like most companies want, right? There's a hierarchy system, waterfall, classical, whatever, and they are working in a certain way, and they want to have a transition in an agile way where each team can more or less do stuff completely on its own, without dependencies on the operations department or the front-end department or the marketing department, or I don't know. Just do what they have to do completely on its own. And that's the same on the working context. So you really should get of no dependencies. You should get to a point where you have no dependencies. And I know it's not 100% possible. Everything I've told you is not 100% possible. It's not 100% possible that I know who I am, never. Because time is continuing, the world is continuing, and as soon as saying one sentence, it will change everything in me immediately. but you can come to a point where you have very less information about yourself, about your team, about your person, and you can come to a point where you have a lot of information about yourself, or you be in the moment. And I think that's the end of the presentation. And maybe as a last sentence, maybe you got an idea that actually it's not about breaking up, like the speaker said before. It's not about basketball is not about basketball, and code is not about code, and actually breaking up is not about breaking up. Breaking up is just a transition from one state to another state, and you have to handle that somehow. And I had the feeling that Agile mindset and Agile tools helped us a lot. And maybe you got some ideas for your own transition to work on that. Thank you.
Questions?
How did those retrospectives happen? Did you have that standard, what went wrong, what went right, and what to improve, or something else?
Actually, my wife don't like Agile. Because there's too much structure and relationships are not structured. I think a little bit differently. But regarding the retrospectives, I said I want that, and she said, okay, let's do it. And we had every 2 to 4 weeks, we changed it a little bit, retrospectives. And basically at that point, we said, yes, what went wrong, what went well, what I want to have differently. And the funny thing is, we thought that we have a very good connection. I mean, we know each other very, very well. And still in the retrospective, every time arose at least 1 or 2 things I never expected, where she said, hey, I don't like that you do that and that. And I thought, oh really? I thought you liked that. No. Okay. And it helped us because this what it was little successes. It was like picking the lowest hanging fruits.
More questions?
I think we have one in Mentimeter. Do you consider to apply be selfish idea from JBrains for your next relationship?
Again, sorry.
Do you consider to apply be selfish idea from JBrains for your next relationship? Maybe someone can explain what's JBrains.
I didn't attend that, but I saw the drawing. As I don't know what he said, I just I just saw what he was drawing. I had a feeling that it was very similar because it's actually that you're self-aware. I had a feeling that it's about knowing who you am and first look on yourself. And yes, that was a key factor in our relationship, that I always wanted the best for her and she always wanted the best for me. And that worked really good as long as our relationship was above a certain level. But at where we were at the point where it were about 10 or 20%, it didn't work out anymore. Because at that point, I saw, oh, she's not feeling good, and I jumped into her, and I was feeling worse then, and she was jumping into my side, and then we were jumping just around, and it didn't help us. So I think if you're at a point where you don't feeling good, you need to first focus on yourself. So yes.
And one more, who you are.
I'm a luck dragon, an agile luck dragon.
Thank you.